it's Froggy, and I'm back again with another episode of Hakuoki Kyoto Winds, so let's keep going. Night had fallen by the time that we arrived at Kujo Beach. After leaving the Fushimi magistrate's office, we made it for Aizu Manor. Upon arriving, we relayed our previous encounter and asked for new orders. Aizu Domain Residence. A Buddhist temple in Kyoto used as the base for the Aizu Domain. The Shinsengumi rented a portion of the Konkai Komyo in Kurotani. The manor official we met with directed us to go to Kujo Beach, which we did. However,
新選組が我々会津藩と共に待機だと。そんな連絡は受けていない。すまんが藩邸へ問い合わせてくれるか。
Negakura seemed to tolerate no more of this.
あ？お前らんとこの藩邸が新選組は九条河原へ行けって言ったんだよ。その俺らを適当に扱うってのは、新選組を呼びつけたお前らの上司をないがしろにする行為だって分かってんのか？
それは私に言われても。
The man flinched and shivered, and then fell silent. Kondu did his best to assume a professional air, but there was no hiding his massive grin.
陣営の責任者と話がしたい。上に取り次いでいただけますかな。
At last, after a great deal of trouble, we were allowed to remain with the troops at Kujo Beach. The chief and the captains left the rest to us to speak with the Aizu commanders. They returned sometime later, looking tired and drained. Inoue, who'd gone with them, also wore a bitter sort of half-smile.
どうやらここの会津藩の兵たちは主戦力じゃなくただの予備兵らしい。会津藩の主だった兵たちは Hamaguri Gomonの方を守っているそうだ。
Hamaguri Gate, one of the western gates of the imperial estate, it is protected by the allied forces of Aizu, Kuwana, and Satsuma. They're treating the Shinsengumi like reserves?
屯所に来た伝令の話じゃ、一刻を争う事態だったんじゃねえのか？
状況が動き次第。 即座に戦場へ馳せる。今の俺たちにできるのはそれだけだ。
So all we can do is wait. There was a chance that the call would come at night, so the men stayed awake, ready to act.
休むなら言えよ。俺の膝くらいなら貸してやる。
Oh, no, I'm fine. Harada laughed as I shook my head. It wouldn't be fair for me to be the one to sleep. The men had to remain alert, anticipating that they could face death at any moment. Anxiety wrapped around me until I slept near dawn. The men, however, were vigilant through the night. Even as I drifted in and out of consciousness, I could see them nearby, persisting against the night. The break of dawn burned my eyes as I heard it. A cannon? The crack of a gunshot tore through the morning air, and in the distance I heard men shouting and the clang of metal. The fighting had begun. The captains looked at one another and nodded.
Yukuzo!
I stared at him for a moment, perhaps not yet fully awake, until I understood what he was saying. Right! With a quick nod, I readied myself to go, and then...
またんか新選組! 我々は待機を命じられているのだぞ。
待てだと。
Even during our lengthy march the day before, I'd never seen Hijikata mad. Maybe because of his position as commander, he was afraid to express himself when his temper flared up, but it looked as if he reached his limit. Normally he left the yelling to Negakura and stayed patient when speaking with the army officials. This time, however, he finally had enough.
てめえらは待機するために待機してんのか。御所を守るために待機してたんじゃねえのか。
Ooh, Imperial Estate, the Emperor's residence.
長州の野郎どもが攻め込んできたら援軍に行くための待機だろうが。しかし出動命令はまだ。
Hijikata was in no mood for excuses.
の仕事に一かけらでも誇りがあるなら、てめえらも待機だうんぬん言わずに動きやがれ。
Even without waiting for a response, Hijikata spun around and stalked off, fuming. Where are we going? I didn't dare raise my voice above a whisper, but I asked Saito, who was walking near me.
敵が確実にいる場所、ハマグリ御門を目指す。
Hamaguri Gate. You mean where Aizu's main force is protecting right now?
ハマグリ御門では激しい戦闘が始まっているだろう。あんたも今のうちに気を引き締めておけ。
All right. Hijikata's fury seemed to rouse the Aizu reserves, who, up to this point, seemed flustered by the threat of conflict, watching the Shinsengumi march. At the end, they followed the Shinsengumi to Hamaguri Gate. Before long, we'd arrived. Oh my gosh. The gate was pockmarked with scores of bullets, and everywhere dead and dying soldiers littered the ground. The acrid stink of firearms hung in the air. Even though I tried to prepare myself mentally for what lay before me, my heart shattered from the traces of war occurring ahead. The enemy, however, was nowhere to be seen. We had arrived too late. The battle was already over. After a moment of stunned silence, several of our men were dispatched by Hijikata to determine what happened. Then Kondu sighed.
しかし、天使様の御所に討ち入るなど、長州は一体何を考えているのだ。
やっていることがよくわからんね。長州は尊王派のはずなんだがな。
Kondu simply nodded. The Chosu defined themselves as among those who revered the emperor, yet they attacked his home? It didn't make sense to me either. Nevertheless, the damage was done. I was in the middle of pondering their reasons when Saito returned to me.
夜半から朝方にかけてハマグリ御門へ押しかけた長州勢は、会津と薩摩の兵力により退けられた模様。
The forces standing against them were too much for the Chosu, and they were forced to retreat. The corner of Hijikata's mouth curled into a grin.
薩摩が会津の手助けか。世の中変われば変わるもんだな。あんなに仲が悪かったはずなのにな。いや、長州が共通の敵となっただけか。
The Satsuma and the Aizu domains hadn't been on the best of terms. I thought that they outsmarted the family domain and allied with the imperial court to expel foreigners. However, I recall my father telling me that they were not much different than the Chosu. Unlike the Chosu, however, they'd gone to war with the foreign force and suffered a devastating loss. Following their defeat, I learned that the Satsuma began to reconsider their nationalistic stance. However, these were only rumors, and what had come to pass had yet to be fully determined.
土方さん、公家御門の方にはまだ長州の奴らが残ってるらしいぜ。
Kuge Gate, a location now referred to as the Inoue Gate at Matsuyama Castle. Hijikata's expression changed as he considered Harada's words, but before he could open his mouth to speak, Yamazaki appeared.
副長、今回の御所襲撃の中心人物らが天王山に撤退しているそうです。
You know, for the fact that we're going for Yamazaki on this route, we haven't seen him very much, so I'm always really excited when he finally shows up, because I feel like it's been like, what, 2 episodes now since last time we saw him or something? Whew. Okay. Tennu Mountain, an important, heavily traveled location in the southern part of Kyoto. It is adjacent to the Tsetsu province. Mount Tennu was located between Kyoto and Osaka. Supposedly, they're in the middle of escaping from the Fushimi towards Osaka. From Fushimi towards Osaka, not the Fushimi. After hearing the report from both Harada and Yamazaki, Hijikata contemplated deeply. Although Kondu was recognized as the formal head of the Shinsengumi, I'd learned from everyone that all major decisions were deferred to Hijikata. This was no exception, and I could see all eyes were on him. He was silent for a few moments, and then I saw his mouth curve in a small smile.
てめえら、今から忙しくなるぞ。原田、隊を率いて公家御門へ向かい、長州の残党どもを追い返せ。
あいよ。
斎藤と山崎は状況の確認を頼む。当初の予定通り、この蛤御門の守備に当たれ。
承知。はい。
それから大将、あんたには大仕事がある。手間だろうが、会津の上層部に掛け合って、追討の許可をもらってきてくれ。
長州軍の追討だな。
天王山に向かった奴ら以外にも敗山兵はいる。商家に押し狩りしながら落ち延びるんだろうよ。追討するなら俺らも京を離れることになる。その許可をもらいに行けるのはあんただけだ。
The Shinsengumi were entrusted with the protection of Kyoto, and if this war was for aiding the Eizu, then they had to do more than just guard the gate. Leaving our post, however, was a chase after the Chosu troops meant that we needed permission from the military commissioner, meaning the Aizu.
なるほどな。局長である俺が行けば、きっと守護職も取り合ってくれるだろう。
After what we'd gone through the day before, I didn't imagine Kondu's task would be an easy one. Still, if the representative was anyone other than Kondu, the Aizu would be unlikely to grant the request, let alone entertain the notion of a meeting.
源さんも守護職邸に行く近藤さんと同行して、大将が暴走しないように見張っておいてくれ。
はいよ、任されました。
Another laugh ran through the soldiers, and Kondu's mouth twisted into a wry sort of grin. Perhaps he chose not to deny it because he knew that he might go a little crazy.
残りの者は俺と共に天王山へ向かう。それから。
He looked directly at me. I wasn't a warrior, nor did I have political ties. Ichikata didn't know what to do with me. Suddenly I felt very much like dead weight.
お前は好きな場所に同行しろ。だが、近藤さんについていくのはなしだ。
All right. Kondu was meeting with the leaders of the Aizu. If I joined him, there would be nothing for me. I had many options for what I could do. Hijikata would be pursuing the leaders of the Chosu attack toward Tennu Mountain. Saito would be staying at Hamaguri Gate to protect it and to gather information. Harada and his men would be going to Kuge Gate to stop the attack on the Imperial Estate. So the question was, where would I go? Well, we know that Yamazaki's going to be at the Hamaguri Gate. He's staying here, so we're going to stay here too. I decided to remain at the Hamaguri Gate with Saito. Before long, the rest of the Shinsengumi was gone, and it was time for us to begin our own mission.
まずは新選組の者として会津の責任者へ挨拶が必要か。
In all the excitement, I'd completely forgot that the Shinsengumi were ordered to stay with the reserves. Instead, we'd chosen to march to battle. Saito was probably right to try and smooth things over with the Aizu as soon as possible.
よろしければ自分が行きます。上層部も混乱していますから、今回の我々の行動を咎めることもないと思います。
わかった。会津藩の対応は山崎に一任する。問題が生じたなら俺を呼んでくれ。
Yamazaki bowed once and then turned on his heel to disappear. The area near the Hamaguri Gate was filled with warriors. I could see some of the men from Aizu Domain and perhaps some men from Satsuma as well. They appeared to be arguing over something. We'd been looking around the area to get a lay of the land when we sensed something unpleasant and went to investigate. That was when we found the confrontation between the Aizu and the Satsuma. What are they arguing about?
おそらくは手柄の取り合いだろう。愚かなことだ。
Oh. The words were barely out of my mouth when one of the Satsuma men noticed us.
何かと思えば新選組ではないか。こんな者どもまで招集していたとは。
Rude.
やはり会津藩はふぬけばかりだな。浪人の手を借りねば戦うこともできんのか？
What? I could see the faces of the Shinsengumi stiffen, and more than one hand moved toward a sword. Saito, however, was as implacable as ever.
よまいごとに耳を貸すな。ただ己の務めを果たせ。
He swept his cool gaze slowly over the men, looking each man in the eye. They shifted restlessly, but their hands dropped from their swords.
己薩摩、我が合図を愚弄するつもりか。
His face was bright red, and his sword shook as he held it at the ready. If something wasn't done soon, that sword was likely to start spilling blood. Oh, this guy. Before anyone from the Satsuma could respond, a tall man stepped through them and out into the space between the two factions.
なんだ、貴様が相手になるか。
With a yell, the soldier threw himself forward, raising his sword to anticipate a deadly cut. Saito dashed forward, almost too fast to see, and stopped before the charging men.
やめた方がいい。あんたとそのものでは腕が違いすぎる。
池田屋では迷惑をかけましたな。確か東堂という名の青年にお相手いただきましたが、怪我の治りが良くないのであれば加減ができずにすまなかったと伝えてください。
池田屋で平助を倒したのはあんたか。なるほど。それならば合点が行く。
Oh. If Saito had ever heard the man's apology, he showed no sign of it.
大方薩摩藩の密偵としてあの夜も長州勢の動きを探っていたのだろう。
The man simply shrugged and tilted his head to the side almost quizzically. Saito took a step toward him. Oh. Alright, well, I'm going to go ahead and end this episode here for today. So I hope you guys enjoyed it. If you want to see more videos from me, then don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Thanks for watching.